So what we're encouraging the directors to do, particularly in the preparation of their supervision logs and verbatims, is to be reflecting back on the session, so we invite them to record the session and then listen to it a couple of times, and there's a number of questions that they have to ask. And really what we're trying to elicit from them is their own noticing about what was going on, what was happening in me, that I did this or I didn't do that, where can I improve, what are the places of nuance in the direction session as I listen to it, and to be asking those questions for themselves. So, that basic question, what was going on in me, which is the heart of the supervision process.
Yeah, so there's self-noticing and becoming more aware. And to learn to read the clues within themselves.
Yes.
What triggers something for them.
Yeah. And everybody has their own sort of clues, they're, catch in the throat, or, churning in the gut, or, they feel on the edge of tears, all those kinds of things. So we all have our own little triggers or little pay attention.
Yeah. And so they are the things that one would say, this is what I need to bring to supervision today, this is what I need to bring to our peer group, and so on.
Yes.
Yeah. And to be open to exploring that within the supervision and the peer group.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And in light of that, it is very obvious that we are inviting the director to trust the process of supervision. And to trust that they will be able to handle things that come up and so on. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, I guess, we've sort of covered that a bit already in our conversation. But the supervision process is a safe place. The supervisor is there as part of that safety, and that's part of their responsibility is to hold the container of the supervision process, and that we're always in charge of our own process. So the supervisee, like the director, at any point can say, I just am not comfortable to go there today, or that feels a bit too hard or a bit too risky. We might sort of nudge it maybe just a tiny bit, but basically respecting that, again, the person has the wisdom for their life, and they know what they can cope with on any one day.
And that's, I was just thinking that sort of leads into the hospitable space too, that we just, you and I mentioned a little bit before, that really supervision is a hospitable space, and the direction needs to be a hospitable space where things can be explored and unpacked in safety.
Yes.
So, okay. And another bit is that we are always learners, so even as supervisors we're still in the learning process, and the director and directees will hopefully be in that space too.
So it is always kind of this posture of learning, discovery, curiosity, and we don't need to be defensive. We might find ourselves defensive at times, but our desire is, in all of our peer groups and our supervisory conversations, that the director knows that what we want most is their growth. And so, it's not about right or wrong, it's about supporting them and assisting them to be the best director they can be.
Thank you. And we must remember always that God is present in both the directee and the supervision space and all of life. So that's a given, but we need reminding of that from time to time.
And so that's why we're always on the alert, because God is always present and God is wanting to communicate, then, all those little edge points are often the doorways into some little bit more wisdom from God. So
Mm.
yeah, and we believe God's there.
Yeah, and my spiritual director once said to me fairly recently, God is for us. So God is always for our growth, our transformation.
Yeah.
So it's not like God is getting at us, but
No.
God is for us.
Yeah,
So I thought
yeah.
that's,
That's
for me,
lovely.
that's a really
Yeah.
helpful phrase to hear.
Yeah. And I guess you could say by extension, you know, as supervisors, we're for the director as
Yes,
well.
yeah.
You know, we are wanting to see them grow, you know. And what we do is about assisting that. It's there's really no other purpose.
No, which again is that hospitable space, I think. Yeah. And finally, boundaries are a very important part of both the spiritual direction session and the supervision session. So is there something that you'd like to share, that a particular perspective on boundaries that you want to note today?
Well, I guess as you say, I mean, you know, they're critical in all the three relationships: the director or the director or directee, director or supervisor, and the peer group process. So it's things like not doing the work for them. So with the director and the directee, it's not doing the directee's work for them, but being alongside, witnessing to, but you know, I always love that image of the director as midwife. You know, where the midwives aren't having the baby, they're assisting the director to have the baby or to bring to birth, whatever it is. And that's a helpful way of just thinking about it. You know, am I assisting the other to bring whatever it is to birth, or am I trying to, you know, go through labour myself? And it's, you know, it's a similar experience in either direction or supervision. If we're doing all the work in the supervision process, similarly, the director is not getting the experience of actually discovering something for themselves. I think another aspect of this is also in the group context, that the supervisor is also the one who holds the boundaries in the group. And so if another member of the peer group is kind of overreaching, or, you know, starting to tell the person, well, you should have done this, or, you know, what's wrong with you, or this is what I think is wrong with you, then the supervisor, you know, gently steps in and says, no, well, that's not what our process is about. And that holds the sense of safety, and gives people more confidence to have a go. So there's sort of those two aspects of it, I think.
Yeah, and I thought also, as an observer perhaps, to be careful not to be a rescuer of the director during a peer group. Oh, that's in a quad really, isn't it? But,
Well, it can be
in a peer group too.
Yeah.
They might avoid asking questions that are growth producing for the other. So that's another area.
Yeah. And I think a challenge both in quads and peer group for the people who aren't the focused person is to give helpful feedback, not to say, oh, that was good, and often that is the rescuing posture, you know, or, you know, but holding up the mirror, reflecting back, I notice, not to put a value judgment on it, just I notice this or that. It's a helpful way of going forward.
Okay, well, thank you, Sue. I think we've pretty much covered all the areas that we said we'd cover.
Yeah.
So maybe the participants might have some questions later on during when we recap some of this together, and we could respond to those sort of questions.
That would be excellent. Yeah. Thanks, Lizanne. It's been good to have the conversation with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, Sue.